The Tartarian War, End-Time Blood Activation, and the Locust King. GOG, the coming Locust King, pre-activating all his spiritual descendants and bloodline. A lot of this probably happening through frequency manipulation. Probably seeing it already in bloodlines, not only on a mass scale, but even in individual lives. This is probably already happening. Sleeper DNA coding being activated. Modern time. GOG's descendants activated to turn on the Shemites. Again, you may have seen this in your own life. And again, this is about spiritual bloodlines. This is not even natural bloodlines, although nations, as you'll see soon, could play into it. Not only on a mass scale, but also individually, you may see this spiritual bloodline war at work. Especially through rulers of nations, which are controlled by principalities, the Prince Sar spirits. And oftentimes, the reason are spiritual reasons why wars happen or decisions are made politically or militarily. GOG and his Suicide Squad like faction and alliances. You'll see that he assembles his end-time army, kind of like Megatron, rounding up his old crew in the Transformers franchise. But you'll see him rounding up his old crew spiritually, and then the human chessboard field where it all plays out, with human avatars and other people and nations that will participate. GOG's first draft pick, other than Magog, probably will be the Prince of Persia, if the Prince of Persia isn't already another reference to GOG or Magog. GOG, the more I'm studying, I think is the Antichrist, as I've told you before. But GOG's number 2 in charge, the Prince of Persia, this mysterious, evil, prayer-stopping angel. More on him in a minute. This end-time bloodline activation war and the return of the Locust King and the Mongols from Tartaria, hordes of apocalyptic judgment. Also, who else specifically will be involved? And is the most expensive city in the world that is actually a ghost town, really just a future city of the ruler that will become the Antichrist. GOG Khan, the Tsar of Tartaria, the new Ottoman Empire, and the pendulum will be swinging toward quickly. The Prince of Persia is a big deal in the Bible, one of the top powers and principalities, and you see him again in the Daniel story, where he's totally hindering Daniel's prayers. By the way, Daniel is mentioned in Ezekiel as one of the most 3 righteous people to ever exist, along with Noah and Job. So if Daniel, the most righteous man basically, cannot get his prayers across for 3 weeks, and he's fasting the entire time and needs angelic help, more than just Gabriel, he needs Michael to come gangster out everybody and solve the dispute. Imagine this level of warfare and how real this atmosphere of fog and this gift that these evil angels and principalities have of hindering prayer and just giving this total mind fog, cloudy, dark atmosphere. Again, Michael needing to come break through it all. So the Prince of Persia, this evil reptilian angel, again, in the Aramaic, he is called Sar Paras, which means Prince Spirit. Sar meaning prince and Paras is Persia. Interesting how Sarpa is right there, and again, that's a serpent reference all over India, all over the world, and you can see that in my theory of everything. But Sar is the same thing as Tsars, which you'll see in the Tartarian area in Russia again. Tsar is a title, just like GOG is a title. In fact, if you didn't know, Goliath is a title, it's not a name. And it means champion, just like Yokozuna. Anybody out there that remembers WWE or WWF back in the day, Yokozuna, again, is not a name, it's a title meaning champion. Interesting how this could solve one of the mysterious Goliath references that people try to use as a contradiction. Either way, GOG in the book of Amos in the Septuagint is referred to as the King of Locusts. Again, this furthers the Antichrist connection to Revelation 9, when you see Apollyon, GOG, the Locust King, emerge from the bottomless pit, and he has this entire army of locusts at hand. This is the same character through time that has had many names and is the head of the mystery Babylon empires, which again, this is all Daniel's vision, where he sees a golden-headed statue and he sees empires. There were various empires throughout the world that was really all just mystery Babylon carried throughout time. You see Egypt, you see the Medo-Persians, you see Greece, and you see Rome. So Gog's Suicide Squad-like army. Who else is involved in this? Turkey's mysterious and underrated role in eschatology just keeps coming up. And when I tell you to watch the country of Turkey, and then you'll remember me saying this, watch the country of Turkey. Also Persia, again, Prince of Persia. Persia is Iran. Prince of Persia is one of the high-ranking principalities, and again, probably Gog's number 2, if it's not a reference to one of them. Rounding up the Scythian, barbarian, Tartarian Magogites, nomadic tribes from Persia, Iran, all the way through to the Russia Tartarian areas. This idea of the revived Ottoman Empire, Byzantine and Roman Empire, part of the same area. The Roman Empire was split into 2 areas, and again, this Byzantine Empire occupying topographically or geographically a lot of the same area. The Assyrian AntiChrist, again, references to the same area, the same empire. This whole ley stronghold area with czars and princes, all going by different names, but it's similar links through time. You can check out another video I did, Gog, the Prince of Tartaria, where I go into some of this, but I'm going to go deeper now. French friars from almost 1,000 years ago, as well as medieval European maps, all attribute this northeastern part of Asia to the same thing, the Gog and Magog army and Magogites. Marco Polo and others contribute the people and even the names Gog and Magog through etymology to the Mongols. And the Mongols basically are the Tartars in the simplest explanation. I'm going to read you a few fascinating accounts that I'll put on the screen. You can follow along. In the hands of early Christian writers, they became apocalyptic hordes. These are referencing the Mongols like Genghis Khan. Throughout Middle Ages, they were variously identified as the Vikings, Huns, Khazars, Mongols, and other nomads, or even the 10 lost tribes of Israel. Even in the early 19th century, some Hasidic rabbis identified the French invasion of Russia under Napoleon as the War of Gog and Magog. Napoleon also fitting a certain archetype and pattern, very interesting, how he almost conquered basically the entire world except for one spot. Some Christian writers during the Middle Ages saw in the large and diverse invading hordes an apocalyptic message, and among of these, of course, the Mongols and other aggressive nomadic tribes were identified as the descendants of Gog and Magog. Mysterious and invincible horde from the east who destroyed Muslim empires and kingdoms in the early 13th century. Kings and popes took them for the legendary Prester John, marching to save Christians from the Muslim Saracens. But when they entered Poland and Hungary and annihilated Christian armies, a terrified Europe concluded that they were Magogoli, the offspring of Gog and Magog, released from the prison Alexander had constructed for them, heralding Armageddon. Again, you're going to see this theme of that area being walled off, being referenced in many different ways. Last one of these. An obscure account of Friar Carpini's 1240s journal to Mongolia is unique, alleging that these Caspian mountains in Mongolia, where the Jews called Gog and Magog by their fellow countrymen, are said to have been shut in by Alexander, were moreover purported by the Tartars to be magnetic, causing all iron equipment and weapons to fly off toward the mountains on approach. Some sort of magnetic technology involved in these gates. Sounds a lot like other spiritual bindings, also referencing Gog and Magog. So the army of Gog and Magog, you basically have Iran, Russia, and Turkey as the main 3. Also some areas in Northeast Africa like Sudan and Libya, but also a really slept on area of the world are the stands like Turkmenistan. A lot of the stands are going to be part of this Neo-Ottoman Empire. We're coming back to Turkmenistan specifically in a minute. All these related players to the end times, Tartaria, and also in the War of Gog and Magog sequences in the Bible, there are certain passages that reference the isles and islands, talking possibly about Japan, maybe even the Philippines, areas on the map that, even China and Korea possibly involved in this war. I find it interesting how Russia is portrayed by a bear. Also, the Medo-Persians, part of some of these empires, are in the Bible portrayed as a bear, I believe in the book of Daniel. In fact, this whole area from Iran to Turkey, this Gog and Magog area, have bear tie-ins. Kind of interesting. Again, Ezekiel's encoded bear passage code about 42 youths being mauled by 2 bears, probably Gog and Magog. Again, bears representing unclean nations because of the Levitical code. A bear is an unclean animal, so again, those would be the Gentile nations, all the Scythians, the barbarians, Gog and Magog, the 2 bears. Again, the 42 being the 42 months of the Great Tribulation. Gog, the final world emperor. Gog, the prince of Tartaria. Really, Tartarus. Bottomless pit tie-ins. Gog, king of Locust from the bottomless pit. And again, all sorts of walls over there in that whole Tartaria area with lots of legends about them. Again, I did an original video, not the one I referenced earlier, but about the wall of Gog and Magog. By the way, check out these differences in the TikTok versus the YouTube views. YouTube, throw me in, bruh. This constant AI Jezebel war. Imagine if the disciples had social media back in the day, and Satan or his agents could just push a button to silence them. Interesting times we live in. This mysterious figure in walls, Dul Karnan, is a legendary reference to this figure, who a lot of people in history actually attribute to Alexander the Great, but Dul Karnan actually built a barrier and walled in Gog and Magog in some of these Mongol hordes or some of these tribes. Some people think it may even be Cyrus or actually one of the Khans, actually, is other people's theories about the mysterious figure of Dul Karnan. Also, again, mentioning Napoleon earlier, fitting a certain pattern in an area and controlling the entire world. All part of an Antichrist archetype in this area. Speaking of controlling the world, Oghuz Khan, also another Khan and a mysterious figure. He has a specific symbol, this 8-pointed star and sigil all over Ashgabat, which you'll find is a very interesting city. It's a ghost city. Could be the future city that will be the city of the Antichrist. You'll find this symbol, this 8-pointed star, all over the entire city, as well as 5 specific crests for different people there, but these are mandalas. These are clearly audio sigils. These are sounds. If you could play these are sounds. Further into the mystery of Ashgabat. Is it the city of Gog? All white buildings, marble white buildings, the richest city in the world with green emerald roofs. Well, they're not actually emerald, but that's what I believe it's meant to represent. Also, horses and white horse specifically. But take a look at some of these pictures. This is a very mysterious area that honestly, aside from being a ghost town and the most expensive city in the world, and all the symbology from all of the different things you're seeing up here, it really seems like this could be the future city of the Antichrist. Also, the horse, specifically in this pose, meant to be like Napoleon. Again, with the Khan lineage and all the official sigils and symbols, could it be the future city of Gog, the future city of the Antichrist, who will control this new Ottoman Empire? And again, this is nothing against any of the people of Turkmenistan. I think everybody is cool. This is, again, just following patterns that you see in the scriptures about different things. I find all of this history and putting it together fascinating. Also weird about this 8-pointed star and the Antichrist. This is called the Chaos Star, one of Aleister Crowley's symbols, and again connected to the Antichrist. You'll see it all over the world, even tying in with the 8-pointed pyramids with sacrifice all over the world, this entire grid, this 8-pointed star. I'm going to be coming back to that later also. The future city of Gog, whose plan is to encompass the saints. You'll see this in the scripture. Encompass the saints. Interesting how the compass has 8 sides. Also, the square and compass with the G is at Gog, Gog's mission, to encompass the saints. Interesting. We'll be coming back to a little bit more of that later. Also, there is in Astana this pyramid. Is this the future meeting place of the Antichrist, fallen angels, or a certain table of nations. Speaking of table of nations, you'll see that from the Tower of Babel, 72 nations. You'll see in Magog's bloodline, Tubal is one of the descendants. In esoteric societies, Tubal-Cain, and the Tubal-Cain symbol, which is actually the 007, it's two balls and a cane. You'll also see in this lineage, Cush. Cush is Nimrod's dad. So you see this tag teaming up of Cain, Nimrod, these Antichrist bloodlines, spiritual bloodlines. Some of the areas mentioned is Tobolsk, which, that's Tubal. This area of Romania, again, where the vampire legends originate from this area and how vampires relate to Cain. You can find a video on my page here about the mark of Cain and how it relates to vampires and the dragon man. Many names over time from the Tower of Babel. Again, Nimrod, Apollo, Apollyon, the Destroyer, Shiva, who you see outside of CERN, probably related again to the bottomless pit opening in Revelation 9. I mentioned the Table of Nations, maybe the United Nations as a reformed part of that, as you see the new Tower of Babel. Again, is this Astana pyramid having something to do with Antichrist and meetings as well as the city I showed you earlier. Pretty interesting. That's also in one of the stands of Kazakhstan. Principalities are an interesting topic. Do they change locations or are they always confined to one geographic area? Are there reasons for them to change if they're overthrown in war? Can they be bound? Or do astrological ages, which you see, function as a clock? Does that have anything to do with them changing regions? Or for other technicalities, maybe? Is the Prince of Persia the main principality that's in charge of whatever the main world empire is, or confined to that region? Is the USA in this area the main empire of the world right now? Could the Prince of Persia be over our country? Also, you see that there's the Prince of Grecia, which would be the Prince of Greece, who again tag teams with the Prince of Persia to fight against Daniel's prayers, again being slumped out by Michael. Fascinating, these angels with the superpower to be able to do that. Again, this whole Middle East area, major ley line, major spiritual real estate territory. Portals, ley lines, glory, even Abaddon Island. Just like the name Abaddon, who again, Revelation gives you that's the Hebrew name for the Greek name Apollyon, for the same entity. Interesting how spiritual warfare and the reasons why it could happen. I go more into this in Unpod if you want to check out some of the episodes, more into this invisible decision making and society and their powers. Iran, which is Persia, has a few interesting points. Aside from trying to lay claim to Antarctica is its own rabbit hole it can go down. Legends in the past of flying Persian rugs and ancient Solomon technology. By the way, if you've been following my Unpod series, if you watch episodes 5 and 6, which all had similar tie-ins, the tech episode I'm still doing, the B episode, just fascinated me and interrupted it. So stay tuned for the unbelievable tech exploration and reveal. But other Persian tie-ins. Persian Babylonian star catalogs are what a lot of the original star names come from. Also, they were obsessed with the fox star, dog star, Sirius, and early forms of Zoroastrianism and the sun disk. Again, all this having to do with Cyrus, even King Artaxerxes over time. Later, you'll see this area have a lot of Islam and Majuj details that you can also look at that tie into this. But modern day, how Iran, one of these top GOG Magog nations, has this nuclear capability, this ancient alchemy, this demon-given formula for mega explosions, taught probably by Azazel. And you'll see it play out with Israel, war prophecy in the end times, and this GOG and Magog ally coalition. Psalm 83 probably is also connected to Gog's insane genocide plan, kind of like a Holocaust spirit, where basically trying to wipe and erase spiritual bloodlines that even manifest through physical bloodlines just completely erase them off of the earth. Is his plan. And you'll see that his end, Gog's end, is just like the end of Haman. Haman is a character in the story of Esther who basically plots the end of a certain whole group of people, God's people. And he gets hung on his own gallows. So that will be the end of Gog, which you'll see they call the valley Hamon-Gog. The valley of Hamon-Gog is where Gog will be buried and viewed through like a little looking glass and mocked for all time. And again, Haman thrown in there as that exact same reference for that reason. Spiritual warfare, some Magogite bloodlines DNA being activated to come against the Shemites, as Gog works to program, gather, and inspire his offspring from around the world to again encompass the camp of the saints, physical and spiritual, all to betray, all of the sudden, may be happening in your lives already, all a spiritual war. Again, encompassing the camp of the saints. And back to what I alluded to earlier, the speculation on the G, I do think it's cool tie-ins, but really, what the G is, no matter, I don't even know if some of the people at the top know this, but it's really the esoteric music note key of G, and esoterically how that ties into green, the middle color of the rainbow. And there's not much more I can even explain about that, but there's a lot there. Anyway, in close, as the Gog and Magog war approaches, which could be at the door, DNA activation being done through technology and frequencies. And again, this tech exploration I'll be doing on the next Unpod will really tie a lot into that. A lot of this frequency activation and invisible forces that are invading minds, influencing people, decisions, the way people feel, and pretty much everything, the new state of man. This dividing line is getting ramped up heavy, quick, spiritual warfare. But also in the end times, you'll see 144,000 also being marked, physically or spiritually, definitely being marked by God in the spirit realm and by angels, again signifying the mark and seal of God. But you'll see how these certain beings who are also activated in the kingdom of God, they are supernaturally protected from the Locust King and his army. This 144,000 cannot be harmed by the locusts. Can't touch this, MC Hammer status. Also, I've always wondered, a new thing I'm thinking about, will the world actually see any of these demon locusts? Will it be like a demon swarm out of the pit that everybody sees? Or will this just be something that happens in the spiritual realm, in these visual frequencies that we can't perceive? And in the spirit realm, obviously they will see the swarm because that's what's happening, but mankind could be left not seeing any of it, just being tormented and affected. Could be both. Probably will see it though. But again, with other types of activation, you'll see a glimpse of this with the two witnesses and the powers that they have. And all the real ones who belong to God will have powers activated. But the main power, the Holy Spirit, to get you from this life to the next. Speaking of the two witnesses, and in the meantime, your life is a witness. And it's actually a heavenly book wrote all about you. How will your story end? What side of this final spiritual war will you be on? See you next time on The Savage Truth. Who knows what role you will play? You could be the next future Tartarian hero being celebrated in Yeshua's kingdom.
Agents of the Matrix only exist to make me like them. I won't be like them. I won't be like them. Faith is what you make it, only exists to be more like him.